Hi everyone, I'm here today with Jasper Sussman. We're pleased to be programming her piece We the People at this upcoming Evensong celebrating the feast day of Frederick Douglass. Jasper, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us about your music.
Of course, thank you so much for involving me.
Absolutely. Could you tell us a little bit about this piece, "We the People," about the process behind composing it, and sort of wrangling with this Langston Hughes text?
Of course, yeah. So I was actually 15 years old when I first came across the text. So it's been kind of a 15-year extravaganza with working with it. Originally, I set the entire poem,
Hmm.
which is probably twice as long as what the eventual piece became. So it started as like 9.5 minutes and then became a 5-minute work. So
Hmm.
um, that was one of the biggest pieces of kind of wrangling with the text was what what is the essence of what he's saying, and what can I as the composer kind of take out or reemphasize. And it's so hard to make those decisions, especially with this poem, because every single bit of text is so important
Hmm.
and still very relevant today. So the text, it's I chose the title "We the People" as one of the main kind of germs of intention behind the root of the piece, rather than so the original title, the original Langston Hughes poem, is called "Let America Be America Again," um, which, I mean, that slogan has been used multiple times in different political
Hmm.
realms
Hmm.
in recent years. And it's also very similar to a kind of slogan that's popular today. So, in wanting to get away from that and
Hmm.
have it just be about the text itself, I chose "We the People" as, yeah, kind of the whole point of it is saying, hey, everyone here on this land is equally, important here. And I actually, that was one of the text points that I repeated in the actual setting was, um, I am the people, I am the people, we are the people, we are the people. Um, so yeah, when I was 15, I had actually just been like rifling through books in my parents' stacks of things.
Hmm.
I was raised by anthropologists
Uh-huh.
that do a lot of cultural work with social justice and racism. And so I had this. There was this small little red book of Langston Hughes poems. I think it's called The Dream Keeper. And I just kind of sat down with my dad and talked about the importance and the significance of his voice. And the poem was written originally in 1938.
Hmm.
Um, so me as a very, young Jewish woman in America, I was like, hey, I'm in here and everyone's in here.
Hmm.
Um, so I knew then that as a composer, I wanted to talk about things that really had social impact. Um, and, it was my first work. I was writing down things for the first time.
Uh-huh.
So it makes complete sense that I then, reworked it like 5 or 6 times. And it was one of the most important pieces to me in terms of its message. So it deserved that kind of rewriting and rewriting, even though, as composers, it's hard to revisit something and then make it relevant to you
Yeah.
like years later.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of hitting on several of the points of its importance to me and its importance in history. So
It's quite a journey that you've had with this piece, and it sounds like I'm sure that you brought different aspects of yourself to the compositional process at different times in your life. And just recently, the piece was had its world premiere on the West Coast, and we're pleased to be giving the East Coast premiere just shortly thereafter. What was it like after all this time to hear it finally brought to life? What was that experience like?
yeah, well, so I had it read like in its first version by a high school group that I was a part of in St. Louis. And I mean, that was very interesting, right? And then I wanted something different, and it to have kind of a more mature voice when I went to my undergrad. And I heard just a reading of it there, but having it performed by a professional choir, it was performed by Sacra Profana in San Diego just last weekend. And hearing, I went to several of their rehearsals, and being able to just kind of say, okay, well, this is the importance of this section, and this is kind of, the way that I'm hearing it. And they immediately kind of glommed onto that. And it was overwhelming. I was beyond the moon about it. I wasn't expecting it to be so powerful for me. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, we're pleased that we're able to bring it to life over here on the other side of the U.S. It's sort of a nice way to span across the whole country and sort of cover it in this umbrella. What are some of the things that you're working on now as a composer or as an artist in general?
So actually, I'm currently working on my dissertation at UCSD, and I'm actually doing ethnomusicology. So it's actually an integrative studies program. So I'm kind of bridging my past experience as a performer and as a composer and bringing that into social research. So I was actually just in Tijuana last week with a group called Common Ground Voices, La Frontera, and it does work, like group singing work at the border with different populations that are hoping to cross into America. And my whole interest right now is, how does group singing impact communities? So I'm looking at that question in terms of pedagogy and in terms of what choir directors kind of do in order to kind of bring their own views into a space of choral education, but also, the impact that it has on a more broad scale. So that's really where my focus is now, spawning from kind of my interest in expanding what we do and why we sing in Western societies. So yeah, I could talk more about that for hours.
I'm sure. Well, it sounds fascinating. It hits many of the things that I'm interested in. I know one of the organizations that we're close with, even though they're distant, the Dallas Street Choir, or the director of the Dallas Street Choir, recently went down to the border and did a performance down there and singing with many people. That's a powerful thing to bring people together. And this sounds like a natural combination of your interests with anthropologist parents and as a musician, sort of melding into an ethnomusicological degree that it sounds combines so many things that you're interested and passionate in. That sounds absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Just kind of bringing it all together.
Excellent. Well, Jasper, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your story and the music story with us. Thanks also for sharing your music. We're looking forward to performing it. It will hopefully make a powerful statement in the midst of our Evensong that celebrates the life and legacy of Frederick Douglass and sort of his oratory of truth and justice, which I think melds very, very well with Langston Hughes's message as well as your music. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
On behalf of Sundays in Song and St. David's Episcopal Church, thank you, Jasper, and we'll look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thanks.